You will also find references to books that you may not recognize if you are an adherent to the post-19th century Protestant Bible and its 66 books. These citations include books such as Cepher Yovalim, the Cepher Hanok or Enoch, the Sepharim Baruch, the Sepharim Esdras or Ezra, or the Sepharim Maccabees. These books are called the Deuterocanon or second books. Some of these books have been called apocrypha or secret writings. Over the years, these books have been excluded from the 66 books of the Protestant Bible. However, this exclusion cannot be justified historically. The exact list of the books of the New Testament in the number and order in which they are traditionally delivered was set forth by Athanasius, Bishop of Alexandria, in a letter of AD 367, and Pope Damasus later ratified the same list. This list was later affirmed in the Moratorium fragment, a 7th century Latin translation of a Greek original written around the 4th century. Martin Luther began his translation and his canonization of the Bible at the Wartburg Castle, where he was held prisoner by Frederick the Wise of Saxony for his own safety from May 1521 to April 1522. He limited the Old Testament to only 39 books and put the extra books in an appendix he called the Apocrypha. He also removed the books of Hebrews, James, Jude, and Revelation from the New Testament order, declaring them to be less than canonical. In response, in AD 1546, the Catholic Council of Trent reaffirmed the canonicity of all 46 books originally found in the Septuagint and reaffirmed the full list of 27 books of the New Testament as traditionally accepted, to wit. Of the Old Testament, the 5 books of Moshe, to wit, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 4 books of Kings, 2 of Paralipomenon, or 1st and 2nd Chronicles, the 1st book of Esdras, and the 2nd, which is entitled Nehemiah, Tobias, Judith, Esther, Job, the Davidical Psalter or Psalms, consisting of 150 Psalms, the Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, the Canticles of Canticles, or the Song of Solomon, Wisdom, or Proverbs, Ecclesiasticus, Isaiah, Jeremiah, with Baruch, Ezekiel, Daniel, the 12 minor prophets, to wit, Hosea or Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonas or Jonah, Micheas, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Sophonias or Zephaniah, Aggeus or Haggai, Zacharias or Zechariah, Malachias or Malachi, 2 books of the Maccabees, the 1st and the 2nd. Of the New Testament, the 4 Gospels, according to page 19, of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Acts of the Apostles written by Luke, the evangelist, 14 epistles of Paul the Apostle, 1 to the Romans, 2 to the Corinthians, 1 to the Galatians, to the Ephesians, to the Philippians, to the Colossians, 2 to the Thessalonians, 2 to Timothy, and 1 to Titus, to Philemon, and to the Hebrews, 2 of Peter the Apostle, 3 of John the Apostle, 1 of the Apostle James, and 1 of Jude the Apostle, and the Apocalypse of John the Apostle. But if anyone received not as sacred and canonical the said books entire with all their parts, as they have been used to be read in the Catholic Church, and as they are contained in the Old Latin Vulgate edition, and knowingly and deliberately condemn the tradition aforesaid, let him be anathema. Let all therefore everyone understand that in what order and what manner the said synod, after having laid the foundation of the confession of faith, will proceed, and what testimonies and authorities it will mainly use in confirming dogmas and restoring the morals of the Church. This canon is the first and last official canon of the Church as to the list of books to be included in the Roman Catholic Bible. The 1560 Geneva Bible and the 1611 King James Bible, the authorized version, contained a 39-book Old Testament, a 15-book Apocrypha, and a 27-book New Testament. The redaction of the authorized version to only 66 books followed the publication of the Westminster Confession of 1647 and the subsequent beheading of Charles I of England. It was adopted by the Scottish Presbyterians, which coincided with the rise of the Kirk or Church in Scotland and then in England. For many reasons, this method of inclusion and by default exclusion has relegated significant books to the dustbin. For instance, the justification for the elimination of the Maccabees is not set forth in the decision of the councils. The argument that the Maccabees are merely historical ignored to the extent that these writings answer many of the obscure prophecies found in Daniel 11. The Canon of Trent excluded Maccabees Shelishi, or 3 Maccabees, and Maccabees Revi, 4 Maccabees, Baruch Sheni, the 2nd Baruch, and Ezra Shelishi and Revi, 3 and 4 Ezra, Hanok, or Enoch, and Yovalim Jubilees. These were excluded from the Vulgate and therefore excluded from all Protestant Bibles. These books appear as Deuterocanonical works in various parts of the Christian world, however. For instance, both the Cepher Hanok and the Cepher Yovelim appear in the Abyssinian sect as Deuterocanonical works. 1 and 2 Esdras appear in the 1560 Geneva and the 1611 King James Version authorized version.